There's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald, because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making. In the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont, they're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
Hi again, everyone. 4 years ago on a presidential debate stage, Donald Trump said Hillary Clinton should be in jail. It capped a weeks-long effort by his campaign to convict and sentence her in the court of public opinion for her use of personal email. The 2020 rerun of that playbook on Joe Biden is largely a flop so far. New York Times describes Trump's failed efforts this way, quote, "The extended back and forth was the most prominent airing so far, the negative message that Mr. Trump clearly sees as his best chance of undermining Mr. Biden in the final days of the presidential campaign. But the clash did not yield the kind of explosive confrontation that strategists on both sides had anticipated and in some cases feared. But it isn't because Trump isn't trying really hard, like harder than he's trying to speak to people's rising fears about the 70,000 new COVID cases yesterday.
We're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. It will go away. And as I say, we're rounding the turn. We're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Literally, no one thinks we're rounding the corner. But on the Biden smears, Trump was much more detailed, full of supporting so-called data.
You were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And, Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened.
It was part of an elaborate effort that was dealt a possible lethal blow by today's Wall Street Journal, which reported out that records interviewed by the Journal showed no role for Joe Biden in the deal that Trump is trying to draw attention to there. Politico's Ryan Lizza summed up the sideshow, which would have been lost on any viewers not steeped in right-wing media this way, quote, "One of the hallmarks of the Trump era has been his penchant for pushing fringe characters, peddling dubious stories into the center ring of our political circus. Trump worked overtime to do that again on Thursday, but it did not go particularly well. Trump has alarmed even his own advisors with his lack of focus in the waning days of his campaign. Over the last few days, he has not sustained a coherent argument for himself or against Joe Biden that comes close to the sharp attacks he leveled against at every event against Hillary Clinton and on behalf of the forgotten men and women. Seems Donald Trump has forgotten those men and women this year."
I get along very well with Anthony, but he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able to. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. His vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it.
Very confused guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else.
Did you follow that? I didn't. The Trump fog machine is where we start this hour with some of our favorite reporters in France. Former Congresswoman and Washington Post contributing columnist Donna Edwards is back. Also with us, John Heilman, executive editor of The Recount and co-host and executive producer of Showtime's The Circus. And our friend Jason Johnson's back, politics and journalism professor at Morgan State University and contributor to The Griot. Lucky for us, Donna, John, and Jason, all MSNBC political analysts. So, John Heilman, it is our job to keep sort of like a little side eye on Fox News. And I consider I try to read the New York Post. I try to watch what information or disinformation is being pushed through that ecosystem. I could not follow all of the attacks that Donald Trump was trying to launch at Joe Biden yesterday. What did you make of the effort? And is there any more explaining we should do to anyone that doesn't have it as an occupational hazard to keep an eye on these attempts at creating stories in the right-wing media?
Hi, Nicole. Happy Friday.
Hi.
Good to be Friday. With you. Always. I know, right? It's been one of those weeks.
Another 17-day
You
week.
may recall. You may recall that the last time we met, we were discussing this very story. And I believe I said the phrase radioactive turd on several occasions in relation to this story. I won't repeat that, except for having just repeated it. But it's still a radioactive turd. It's more of a turd than ever, and it's more radioactive than ever. And here's the thing, Nicole. You said you couldn't follow it because you looked in Fox News and you read the New York Post stories, and you can't follow it. You know who else can't follow it? Donald Trump can't follow it, because if you listen last night, you think about all of the effort they put into this. Like, this is going to be it. This is the Comey revelation that's going to change everything. I had Steve Bannon a few weeks ago say to me, we got a big October surprise coming. Rudy and I are going to roll it out. It's going to change everything. And now this thing comes out, and there's only one place that'll take it, and it's the New York Post. It's so stinky that Fox News won't even run it when they tried to peddle it initially. Now it's here. They bring this guy to the debate yesterday, who's supposedly like the killer fact witness, who's gonna say these emails are true, these text messages are true. It's just like the 2016 debate when Bannon brought Bill Clinton's accusers with him to St. Louis. So that was all supposed to be a big setup for Donald Trump to go in the debate and tear Joe Biden limb from limb on this thing. It's going to prove that Joe Biden's a crook and a criminal. And I watched him last night, and I realized that I understood the story better than Trump did. I mean, he could not make a case. For that. He was just gibbering on stage, and there was literally no one who wasn't already deeply immersed in this radioactive turd that could have made hide in your hair of what he was saying on stage last night. It's a sort of complicated, convoluted thing, and the problem for Trump is that he doesn't do any debate prep. So it's not like he can land a clean hit without just speaking Fox News-ese, right? So for any normal voter watching last night, all they get a sense is like, well, what's he talking about? Money? I don't know what he's talking about. It makes no sense. So I think, the combination of how badly it went in the debate for him last night because he didn't execute on it, and the fact that there's really nothing there, and the fact that the Wall Street Journal, as you pointed out, sort of drove a stake through the heart of it this morning, I don't think it's going to cause Joe Biden any problems. Does that mean Donald Trump's not going to talk about it some more? I am certain he and his henchmen and his acolytes and his associates are going to talk about it for the next 11 days. But I don't think it's going to matter very much because it does not affect the real lives of real people in America.
Donna Edwards, that's the part of it that's so interesting to me. It also reveals how far apart the polarized media chambers are, in that when I worked in a White House, Fox News sometimes had the most favorable take, or the most, in our view, in a Bush White House, the most balanced take on the story of the day. CNN, by and large, tried to play it straight, and Keith Olbermann would call us the dumbest and worst people in the world night after night. But they covered the same story. They started in the same place, by and large. One of the sort of, blessings of Fox News being an arm of the state under Donald Trump's presidency is that they bolster his feelings. One of the dangers is they only talk to each other. And it would seem that the debate stage was the very last place that Donald Trump would have in the next 11 days to talk to anyone outside that chamber he's already got. He's got the Trump viewer. They are in. That is the Trump voter. Those are the people at his rallies. Those are the people taking hydroxychloroquine. Hopefully they're not injecting bleach into their lungs. But those are not the people you're talking to on a debate stage. What do you make of the strategic blunder? I think John perfectly encapsulated the failure to execute.
Well, this has been, Nicole, the entire campaign, and frankly, his entire presidency, where he's only talking to this very sort of captured and already there crowd. I mean, I was with a group of, 6 women, and when Donald Trump started doing all of that, all of us had to pull out our devices and look it up.
Google it, right.
Talking about. And even then, we didn't understand why this was relevant. And part of it is because we know, as Joe Biden said, we know him, we know his character. We don't think he's corrupt. And no matter how much Donald Trump tries to throw all of that stuff on him, all it does is Joe Biden acting like a fan and blowing it all back on to Donald Trump. And after all, it's only Donald Trump who has a secret bank account in China, not Joe Biden.
That's a great point. I mean, Jason, just pick up on Donna's point about projection. I mean, I thought this was so interesting last night for all that it revealed that Donald Trump and the people around Donald Trump don't understand about campaigns. I mean, he won, and that's not nothing 4 years ago, but he didn't do it because he had a good campaign. He didn't do it because Jared Kushner became a good political mind. He didn't, and he's not. And last night's debate performance was evidence of that. And I want to read you some of the coverage because we know that Donald Trump lives and dies by the reviews. This is what the Washington Post wrote about it. During the final presidential debate, President Trump made reference to the laptop from hell, AOC +3. I had to Google that one, Donna. Russia, Russia, Russia. Yes, said 3 times in a row. The material was very familiar to, and maybe only familiar to, regular viewers of Fox News opinion hosts such as Sean Hannity. The president borrowed from Hannity's nightly themes and even copied the same phrases the opinion host uses on his daily radio and TV shows. Trump accused Biden of hiding in his basement, something Hannity viewers hear on a very regular basis, even as the former vice president has made more and more in-person campaign stops over the past few weeks. The presidency as a radio show doesn't work. I mean, you've got Hannity, and you've got Hannity rowing in your direction. The presidency is supposed to be something different, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's, Nicole, that's always been Donald Trump's problem, right? When it has to go beyond performance and then into substance, he's got a problem. Every single thing that he says only works if you're sort of a mean, venal, angry person. I mean, Joe Biden is hiding. Well, you're supposed to shelter in place during coronavirus. That's kind of like saying, look at that nerdy kid wearing a helmet and a seatbelt. Like, okay, does that make you tough? The kid is supposed to be wearing a helmet and a seatbelt. When he went on and on and on attacking Joe Biden's family, I was watching with some friends who actually are not doing this every day the whole time, and the reaction pretty consistently is this. So wait a minute. Joe Biden's been in office for 47 years, and the only dirt you can find on him is stuff that his kid did? I mean, like, none of this actually sticks to Joe Biden himself. And when Donald Trump, without the power of being able to interrupt and just do bombast over and over again, he failed to do the single most important thing that he had to do in a debate, which is make the case for why he should keep the job. And all he could do is say reasons why you shouldn't give it to the other guy. And if those weren't convincing, he didn't convince anybody of anything. It was an absolute disaster and failure. He probably shouldn't have skipped out on the second one because then he might have had some practice.
I think that the fact that even Joe Biden is leaning into this and remaining on offense in the sort of face of attacks against his son, which, John Heilemann, you know probably better than me, considerations about the impact on his family was the last gate that he had to get through. He and Jill had to get through when they decided whether or not to do this, I think a couple years ago. Let me show you Joe Biden saying, you want to judge my character? Go ahead, judge my character.
What's happening here is you know who I am. You know who he is. You know his character. You know my character. You know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Doesn't sound like anybody worried about a character fight.
No, not worried about a character fight, Nicole. And you know, the couple things to say about this. The first is just to go back to what you said a second ago. You know, in 2016, there were a lot of reasons why Joe Biden didn't run. He was obviously still shattered over the death of his older son, Beau, but he also knew that there were stories that would be like these stories that would come out about his other son's troubled personal life, genuinely troubled. And he felt as though he needed to not put the family through that, coming so closely on the death of Beau. And so it was a big factor in why he didn't run in 2016. And when they came up to contemplating running in 2020, there was a lot of discussion. They knew, again, they were very familiar with the troubles that Hunter has had in his life. And there was a family decision made to go forward into this race, knowing that at one point or another, we would end up here. So the least surprised person in America that Donald Trump has taken this to this place is Joe Biden. So he's ready for this. He's not happy about it. It upsets him, it angers him, it hurts him, but he's ready for it. And I'll say the other thing here is, you know, this is something you and I both know, Nicole, because, you know, and Donna knows and Jason knows too. You go through a hard campaign. Almost no one comes through a campaign with higher net favorables than they started out with. The story of politics, especially at the national level, is you start in a pretty good place and then you take a lot of incoming, tens of millions of dollars worth of ads, negative free media, scandals, and then you get to the end and you limp across the finish line. And you're lucky if you're in a net positive place, more positive than negative, right? Joe Biden has come out of this campaign seeing his favorables rise over the course of the last 6 months.
Right.
Donald Trump has tried to attack him from every possible angle, has spent $1 billion on mostly negative media. None of it has stuck to Joe Biden. And not only has none of it stuck, but Joe Biden is viewed more favorably by the country today than he was on the day that he won the Democratic nomination. I think it is unprecedented in my lifetime covering politics to see that. And that's another reason why Joe Biden isn't backing down from this fight, because he knows people have judged his character and judged it in a positive way.
It is such a smart point. And Donna, I mean, this is the structural part of campaigns, right? When you're a staffer, you think you can just engineer everything, like an October surprise, which actually the ones that work are never engineered, ever. So the idea that they're trying so hard is their first mistake. But this idea of the human beings behind the politics is something that Joe Biden always led us into. So when the human beings who became political fodder became the story for Trump or the target, we already knew. They'd been open. We already knew. And I said this before. I think I said this to Jason. The only person that I've ever seen in American public life, in politics or entertainment or news, to have their hacked material tell us something better than we know from their teleprompter speeches might be Joe Biden, whose messages to his son, my beautiful boy, get better. And I think in the emails that we saw, or the text that we saw, Hunter Biden was feeling pain from a column that had been written about his problems. But there are human beings and there are real families behind this. And I think some of what people don't like about politics is something that Joe Biden is taking us inside and showing us how to do what John Heilman just said, how to sort of stay on the right side of this by being open and being yourself.
Well, I think that one of the things that Joe Biden really benefits from is his ability to both humanize the process and to continue to show to the American people his authentic self. And I think, for the attacks that were made against him, those messages revealed something that all of us want as parents, and that is to try to be there no matter what for your child. And I think that when Americans look at that, they don't think that's a bad thing. They think it's a good thing. And I think Joe Biden really benefits from showing people who he is and showing his soul and demonstrating that he will lead in that same kind of way for the rest of us and for our families. And, I think that Donald Trump thought he was going to, strike a death blow to Joe Biden. And what he did was allowed Joe Biden to continue to show to the American people why it is that they would want to cast their vote. And let me just say, Nicole, at the end of the debate, both candidates were really offered an opportunity to speak to the American people about their visions and about where they wanted to take the country. Joe Biden used that in a really poignant way, and Donald Trump just spent his time attacking so that we still don't even know why he wants to be president again.
Jason, I just want to end on a quick point. I mean, Obama could have had anyone he wanted for a vice president. And one of the things, it was a very private process, but one of the things reporters covering it knew was that the vetting was intense and extreme because then Senator Obama knew the scrutiny that he would be under and his campaign would be under. So Joe Biden came to this as one of the most vetted politicians. And then Donald Trump got impeached, trying to have his government and another foreign government take him out.
Yeah, Nicole, you can't convince me of something negative about somebody unless there was already a crack there, right? Like the reason that you could harp on emails with Hillary Clinton is because there's previous things she had done. There's reasons that you could attack George Bush because maybe you didn't like how the war was qualified. But you can't attack Joe Biden on being a dirty, corrupt politician when people have seen him as a politician for 35 years. They may say he's boring. They may say he's made racial mistakes. They may say he's flip-flopped. But nobody thinks this man is corrupt. We're supposed to believe he went went through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. The man's been in office longer than I've been alive, and you can't find any attacks on him because you can't find any good scandals. And that's why, and I will say this quickly, this is why Trump got impeached. And this is why he was always afraid of Joe Biden, because he knew he was the one guy that he couldn't rebrand to the American people. And we're seeing that in last night's debate.
Such a smart point. All right, Donna, John, and Jason are all sticking around. They were too good.